Welcome to That Girl Club. We're your hosts, Christina
and Katerina, and we're here to empower you on your journey to becoming that girl in every aspect of your life.
Join us as we dive deep into inspiring conversations with influential entrepreneurs and experts, sharing their insights and strategies to help you thrive.
From navigating the struggles of womanhood to launching your dream business and everything in between, we've got you.
So buckle up. You are about to discover what it really means to be that girl.
Welcome to the club. Welcome back to That Girl Club podcast.
Welcome back, guys. It is Saturday morning.
It is cozy Saturday morning vibes.
Yeah, and we are super excited because you're going to be meeting Katerina today, my bestie and business partner. Because last week, or I guess the week before, they got to meet me. So now we want to introduce
now it's my intro. Yeah, so I'm excited. I drove in last night. Christina and I had a little girly sleepover.
We had an adult sleepover.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, that sounds so bad, like adult sleepover. But like, having a sleepover at this age is so different, right? Because it's like, obviously, I live with my boyfriend, and like, you know what I mean? It's like we have like separate rooms. I'm like making sure you're good at night. I'm like, are you okay? Like, do you need anything?
Yeah, but it was cute. We had our little tea time. Christina made me a tea called Christmas Eve, which I feel is so fitting because now we're December vibes, you know,
very festive.
Like very into the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
So
it was fun. It was cute. So, okay. We want to let you guys really get to know Katerina because I feel like you haven't said much about who you are.
I guess not, eh?
Yeah, we just like want everyone to get to know us more because obviously we're going to be talking every week. So, every other week, but still. Okay, so take us back. Like, I want to know, obviously I know your story. Like, I'm your best friend, but at the end of the day, like, I want everyone to hear, like, take me back to the beginning even. Like, where did you come from? Like,
so who is Katerina? Okay. Well, Katerina's a Greek girl, born and raised in Montreal. Like, Greek to my core.
I was going to say, even the way you said your name, I'm like, Katerina? Like, I can't even say.
Yeah, I had to anglicize it growing up because I was like, people butcher it. But that's how I introduce myself. I don't know if you've noticed. Like the first time I'll be like, hi, I'm Katerina. And then they either get it or they don't. And then I'll be like, okay, we're fine.
Does it like bother you that I don't call you by that?
No.
Like, is it like,
no, of course not.
It's fine to just be like Katerina?
Yeah. Not everyone can like.
Katerina.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so
Greek
born
girl.
and raised, Montreal. For the first half of my life, it was just me and my mama. So grew up with a single mom. It was a good time. It was just the girls at home, you know. She was my everything, still is. So she's my best friend.
I know.
Anyone who knows me knows how important my mom is to me. I had my mom's whole family. I'm super close to that side of my family. My grandparents I was extremely close to. They raised me alongside her and my aunt until my mom met my stepdad, like my dad.
Right. And at what age did that all happen? Like it was you and your mom up until what point?
Until about like 13, 14.
Okay.
And so then my dad, he's my stepdad, but he's my dad. He came into the picture. And that's when you realize like, oh, okay, like, not that things were lacking prior, but it was such a beautiful thing to see my mom like fall back into her feminine energy and like not have to do everything all the time.
For sure.
Right? So he came with my two siblings, my brother and my sister, and we've been a blended family since. I mean, it's almost 20 years. I'm aging myself, but we've been a family since. It is crazy. It's crazy because so like little funny story. Growing up, my favorite Disney princess was Jasmine. Like I was like obsessed with Jasmine and Aladdin.
I feel like you look like Jasmine. Like if there's any Disney princess you could be, like it would be her. Like you kind of embody her.
Oh, thanks.
Or maybe like, but I think just even like the long like hair, like the dark hair, and like I don't know. She has dark hair now.
Yeah,
Jasmine?
she does. She does. Okay. Yeah. So she was my favorite I mean, I also loved, I guess there's a trend here because I loved Pocahontas growing up. Then it was Jasmine.
No, I'm not even kidding. I was literally just going to say, because as I was saying you looked like Jasmine, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, but she actually looks more like Pocahontas. So I'm fucking dead that you said that.
Okay, like no cultural appropriation here or anything. But like, yes, I guess I loved like the more ethnic, like beautiful princesses with like the long black hair. Exactly, the exotic. So growing up, I was like, I love Jasmine. I'm going to name my daughter Jasmine one day. I'm going to name my daughter Jasmine one day. And then my brother and my sister and dad came into our lives, and my sister and Jasmina. So yeah, I swear to God.
So crazy.
Yeah. So I feel like I manifested my little bestie sister. So yeah, so that's my little family. Cute. It's funny because I saw this TikTok the other day, and it was like, you know how people talk about like pretty privilege and whatnot? There's like this whole movement on family privilege. And it's a privilege to have a family you can turn to.
100%. Yeah. Because not everybody has that, right? And I think like that's something we talk about a lot, is just how lucky we are that we have them as like our backbone.
All the time. Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
So that's my point. I am blessed in that sense because no, we're not perfect, but we're pretty damn close to it. Yeah. We've formed our own little perfect unit. So yeah, I definitely have family privilege. I know you do too. Like no matter what, you know, you can call any one of them at any time of the day.
And they'll support you, be there for you, like all that stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, so growing up, we were a family of 5, went through school, studied in marketing. So I got my bachelor's degree at John Molson School of Business. Shout out JMSB.
Is that in Montreal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're still in Montreal. Okay. So got my degree in marketing and started my career at Pepsi at the time in Montreal. So they have like a really big head office there where they run like their beverages side and their food side. And they have this program where they'll run internships with students. And then after students graduate, whomever's selected goes through their new leadership program. So I did my internship at Pepsi. Thought it was going to be like, oh my God, super glamorous. I'm doing an internship at Pepsi on the food side. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah, you're thinking like, let's fucking go.
Yeah, I'm going to learn so much. Like, I love the branding. I love their mark. Like, you know, it's a big CPG company to work for.
Everyone knows what Pepsi is, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I go in, they're like, do you want to work with small format or large format? And I was like, I want to work with small format. And looking back, I'm like, why'd I do that? And I think it's because I've always had a thing for working with smaller businesses and like having an impact with entrepreneurs, like speaking to entrepreneurs, working with these small format stores that I was going to be visiting versus, you know, speaking to a guy who's just running the dock at a Walmart because he's getting paid.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he has no impact
like
in that
innovation and like, exactly. I guess like dedication and passion there.
Exactly. So I chose small format, but at the time I didn't know what that meant or what it would come with. I get the call the next day and they're like, okay, amazing, small format, let's go, get ready. You're going to need steel toe boots.
Shut up.
And I was like, wait, what do you mean I need steel toe? Yeah. Oh, I was on a cube truck for that summer. I drove.
How old were you at this point?
19.
Okay. So you were like
maybe
fresh.
Yeah. I was maybe 20, somewhere there. I forget ages, but yeah, I was
no, I know, but I mean
20s.
like you were basically like in the truck, like moving stuff. Like, is that what you were doing?
Not like, well, basically I was in the truck going, like shadowing these men and women that go every single day to either deliver the products or speak with them about, you know, the campaigns that are happening right now and what like innovations Pepsi's coming through with. So like what we need to place in stores, negotiating with these small formats, because with the small formats, it's more negotiation versus large formats. That's decided up at the top, right? It's like X amount of boxes are going here, period.
Right.
Small format, you're going in, you're kind of talking to these like little business owners.
Like tweaking stuff here and there.
Yeah, but I was driving a cube truck. I have pictures for proof because no one ever believes me.
So during this, were you like, fuck my life that I have to do this? Or were you like, I'm kind of down?
No. I was like, what the fuck did I just get myself into?
Oh my God.
Plus I was up every morning I was up at like 3:30, 4 a.m. to go and like beat the traffic. You had to be at the stores like before they were open and whatnot.
Oh my God. So you're thinking like, why did I sign up for this show?
Yeah. And I was early 20s. It was summer. I was going out. I was seeing friends. I was getting home at like God knows what time and then up at 4.
Oh my God.
My poor mom would be like up seeing me out most of the time. And I was like, Ma, you don't have to like get up with me here. She's it's okay. So she would see me off with my little coffee at like 4 a.m.
That is my poor mom. So funny.
Yeah. So anyways, that was interesting. So after that, I graduated. I started working full-time with Pepsi and kind of took more of a sales path. I mean, listen, it was cool. I was working on like Gatorade summer campaigns, you know, selling that in and whatnot. But after a few years of that and moving through the divisions. Like I was a sales analyst for Eastern Canada, then got my own account. So I was like an account manager.
Yeah.
Kind of like went up the ladder, if you will, at Pepsi. Was having a good time, but stopped aligning as much with the brand. Like I wanted something more and something different.
Yeah.
And that's what took me over into L'Oreal.
Yeah, so way more up your alley, like beauty. You were like, let's go. Yeah.
Of course, right? Like I felt like I had done my time at Pepsi, and it was time to move.
Yeah,
At this point,
at
this point, I was leaving my parents' house, getting my own place, moving out. It was like,
and this is when you moved to Toronto, right? For L'Oreal.
So funny enough, not yet. I moved out of my parents' place before L'Oreal, went into my own condo. 6 months into this condo, like I didn't even have time to settle and like fully decorate. I get a call from L'Oreal and they're like, we want you to go to Toronto to be on a national account.
Oh, wow.
There. So I was like, I just moved out. What do I do? Like, what do I do? I just moved out. I just am settling. I just
got my own place. Mm-hmm. Did you like buy your own place?
Yeah, I had just purchased my condo.
You weren't like on a lease where you had to like,
No, but still, like I just bought my own place. Am I gonna up and leave it right away? And it was like 6 months in, but I really wanted to work for L'Oreal, and I thought it was so cool that they were wanting to put me on a national account.
Yeah,
that I didn't want to miss this opportunity. I don't want to miss this opportunity.
Yeah.
So I called my dad. And I was like, meet me out for coffee. Let's go for an espresso. So he's like, yeah, sure. So he's like coming to meet me. My mom calls me. She's like, why am I not invited? Like she knew something was up, right?
Yeah. Why did you not invite your mom?
Heart palpitation. Because I knew that her initial instinct would be like, no, don't go.
Yeah.
And so I didn't need to hear that.
You almost needed like the logical like man to be like, okay, let's break this down.
I needed my dad.
I always call my dad for that stuff too.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. I needed my dad's grounding energy to like talk it through with me.
Yeah, versus be emotional and be like, what, you're leaving? Nah. Yeah.
Exactly.
I get that.
So we spoke through it and I decided to go. My mom reacted the way I thought she would. She was like devastated, but also really excited.
Yeah.
And I packed up and I left. So I had like a month to figure it out. They put me up in a place in Toronto.
Okay, so you didn't have to like go and like find a place and everything. That was all kind of like done for you.
Exactly. But I needed to find a tenant for my place in Montreal. So it was like, it was stressful.
Were you excited to go to Toronto, or were you kind of like, oh my God, did you ever have intentions of wanting to move there?
Yeah. Growing up, I was always like, I think I'm going to move at some point. Like I wanted to explore a different city.
Yeah.
And it was going to help my career. So it almost was a no-brainer for me at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And my team there was so nice and so interesting. A lot of the girls were girls from Montreal that they moved because their head office is in Montreal, but they have the Toronto remote office for the sales teams that deal with the national accounts. And I took on Garnier hair care and hair color for Loblaws and all their banners. Starting new, being in Toronto.
Yeah, working with like a big like beauty brand. So I feel like that's exciting. Did you ever feel like, because you were representing these like hair products, like Garnier, stuff like that, like did you ever feel like you were pushing something that like you didn't really like believe in almost? Like,
so it's
like,
funny.
Did you ever use the products? Like, do you know what I mean?
So it's funny you say that because I felt like that more at Pepsi. I had started my fitness journey at that time too, like while I was at Pepsi.
Right.
You know, I was a trainer part-time on the side. I was giving like spin classes and group fitness classes and whatnot. Meanwhile, like my day-to-day, I'm like pushing soda and chips. Like it didn't like mesh
with what you were doing, like with the training
in my
stuff.
personal life.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were all very like active. While I was at Pepsi, that's when we signed up to do a triathlon. Like I was doing triathlons, but selling in soda and chips. Like make it make sense, right? So I felt less aligned there because of that.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't part of my day-to-day. I don't even have soda at home.
Did you ever want, like, just going back to what you said about like how you were doing like the training and stuff, because I know you were a group trainer and you did like classes and stuff, which I didn't even know. And you did you were like a spin instructor. Like I didn't realize that was on the side as well as Pepsi.
Yes.
But did you ever want to just like have a career or consider a career in fitness, or did you always know that like that wasn't something you were going to do full time?
I considered it not full time though. Okay, so there was a tough year that I experienced like back then, like last year of school or like coming out of school where my grandfather was sick. He was like in and out of the hospital all the time. I wasn't happy in my relationship at that time.
Yeah.
So within that year, like my crutch was like snacking.
That's like
I was
mine
going
too.
to university.
Yeah.
I was
It's like my drug of choice.
Yeah,
basically.
oh,
Yeah.
100%.
I wish I was the opposite.
I have
but
no other vices really. Like I don't smoke, I don't drink,
same.
but I'll binge on chocolate and
At
chips.
least there's worse vices we could be doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
fair.
So during that year, because I was always very active, like in dance classes and, you know, like fitness and whatnot. And then during that year, it kind of stopped. I was very involved with school. I was very like going through a lot and I put on a bit of weight. So like 6 months in, I was like, whoa, like you need to stop. Like what's happening? And I decided to, you know, turn that around. And that's when I got heavily into fitness. So within like 6 months, I had lost all the weight, got super into the gym where I was at. It was like a boutique gym, like one location in Montreal. They asked me if I wanted to start giving classes because people at the gym started noticing, like girls would come up to me and be like, oh my God, like love your transformation. How'd you do this? You know, it just became like, I became a part of the
community.
The community at the
gym.
So they trained me for the group classes and the spin classes, started giving that. And it's funny because shortly before I moved to Toronto, they wanted to train me into being like a personal trainer solo. So I considered doing it, but not necessarily full time, but I was so immersed in it that I loved it. Like friends were like, you should start a page. I just didn't see myself doing that.
Yeah, like something obviously didn't feel aligned because I kind of feel like if you wanted to do it, you would. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's also, at the time I was like, but who am I to do that? Like, okay, I had my own transformation. That's it. But to be fair, then you look around nowadays and you're like, well, that's where most people started. They started with their own transformation.
Then people follow along with their story.
Exactly.
Do you feel like you were like really happy at that time?
Yeah, I was thriving. I felt my best in my body. I felt good in work when L'Oreal happened.
Yeah, so you felt like it was like a time where you were like attracting a lot of like good things. Do you think that stemmed from how much you were dedicating like into the gym and like your diet and stuff? Like, do you think that was kind of like making it stem from that? Like all the good things you were attracting?
Yeah, I guess so. I never thought of it that way, but you're probably right. Yes.
Did you ever become obsessive with working out and dieting and all that? Like, did it ever get to a point where like this is a little unhealthy?
Yes, it did. Like my best friend and I, she was also working at that gym at that time. So we were like each other's little gym, like besties. We would like meet up Christmas Eve to work out before we went to meet our families. Cause we were like, no, gotta get it in. Cause we're eating tonight, you know?
So it was like borderline unhealthy.
A little bit. Yes. Like now looking back, now I have more balance in my life and I can recognize that.
For sure.
But coming off of that really bad year in my life where I gained weight and then was like, no, I got to drop it. I think that's where I was. I was stuck in like the post-traumatic, I cannot get back to where I was mode.
That you were kind of going like so full throttle so that you didn't fall back to what you had or what you looked like, I guess, and what you were, the behaviors and the patterns you were doing before.
Well, and just like everything else that came with it, because then that point in my life, there was also like unworthiness that came in. I don't feel good in my body. I don't feel good with myself. So when I turned that around and I started focusing on my inner happiness, like not turning necessarily to, you know, distractions to heal.
Food being a distraction.
Food being one of them.
For sure.
I don't know, shopping another, or, you know, like constantly needing to be with friends. That's when things started to go better in my life. And that's when I started to attract more of that good. So I guess, maybe, you know, Toronto and all these things started to happen because I was focused on me.
You were focused on just solely you and bettering yourself. Like maybe there was a few habits that weren't super healthy, but at the same time, it's like you were focused on a goal, and like the goal was to get fit, and you were keeping yourself accountable and holding yourself accountable and being disciplined to this one thing, right? Whether it's training, diet, right? Yeah. So I feel like that kind of helped like maybe attract some good because you were so focused on like your leveling up essentially.
To your point, there were moments like now looking back, I'm like, I didn't need to be that strict on myself, but you know,
we've all been there though at one point. I think like if you get into fitness and you dive really far into it or really deep into it, there comes a point where it does get obsessive, and we've all been there. And some people stay in that obsessiveness, I find, and it's like, okay, they're not getting broken out of it. Maybe they will at some point.
Right.
Because eventually I find that crumbles for some people, right?
For some people.
But I find you either go down that path or you find the balance, and then you're like, okay, that was too much, but you know, there's a fine line.
Yeah. And it works for some people. And as long as it's not hindering your, you know, relationships or your mental health, then it's fine. But at the time, I didn't think I was obsessive, but I didn't touch sugar for like 2 or 3 years. Like not one out, like nothing, not one candy, nothing. I was like super on it for that time. I didn't even have sugar in my house. Like people would come, my mom would be like, there's no, what if you host and people want sugar in their coffee? I'm like, I'll pick up some packets. Like, I don't know. I didn't keep it in my house. Yeah. I didn't keep it in my house.
Yeah.
Looking now, that's not the case. Now I'm like, okay, well, that was a little silly.
What do you think was the turning point then for you? Like when you were so obsessive, what got you out of the obsessiveness to just be normal and be balanced?
Honestly, I think it was my relationship. Okay, I moved to Toronto. Let's like go back to Toronto. I moved to Toronto, started working for L'Oreal, was having like such a good time, whatnot. Started seeing my then partner.
Right.
And I was getting up at 5:30, going to the gym, getting back home to shower, change, get ready for work, make us breakfast, and then go to work.
Right.
And eventually you just stop wanting to get up at 5:30 in the morning. To go to the gym.
It's like, I feel like that's why they call it like relationship weight. Well, but it's like, it's not relationship weight. It's just you're getting more comfortable and you want to stay in bed with that person.
Well, exactly.
Whereas, when you're on your own, it's like boss bitch fucking mode. Like, let's go. And then you have a boyfriend, you're like, I want to stay in bed and cuddle, babe.
Yeah. So it became less of like, I need to get 6 days into the week at the gym. And more like, okay, even if I go 3-4 times and balance it out, we'll be okay. I was still going to gym classes after work. Yeah, less on it. Yeah. In terms of fitness.
Yeah.
So then I spent a couple of years in Toronto and then COVID hit. So that was interesting. I was going into my 3rd year with L'Oreal when all this was like happening. It was tough. Everyone was like now at home. I remember it impacting me quite a bit because I was in Toronto, far away from family. Shit was shut down, you know, stuck within my 4 walls. My fitness took a hit a little bit, like not drastically, but it was, you know, hard to keep that up within my 4 walls.
For sure. I think people either got really into fitness during that time or they were kind of like, oh, well, I almost took it as like a mini vacation for a bit. And then I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting fat. Like I need to chill.
Well, yes, I think in the beginning it was a mini vacay because like I was just coming off of being so obsessive with it. Like how much more could I have done within my 4 walls?
For
like
sure.
No.
And I think everyone thought it was only gonna last like 2 weeks too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's a month. Oh, okay, another month. Oh, and then you're like, whoa. So I think COVID impacted me quite a bit actually. And I didn't recognize it as much at the time. I mean, I'll get into it. Like, who cares? But at the time, I had also gone on the IUD. So I think like my hormones changed. I was stuck in my house. My face like broke out from the, it was just like feeling low. And I couldn't tell if it's because I'm now stuck in my house far away from everyone I love.
Yeah.
Or if it was like, are my hormones playing like tricks on me? Is it my head? Is it?
Yeah.
So there were just like a few factors going on at the time. And then work started to feel less and less exciting. We were working from home. I think they did the best they could, but I don't think all companies dealt with COVID as well as they could have.
Nothing prepares them for that, right?
Right? Like I was giving virtual workout classes to my team, like for L'Oreal. Like I was like, we were doing like lunch hour workouts and I was like teaching workouts for people at L'Oreal because we all were just like going a little stir crazy.
For sure.
So it was around that time that I was like, I need to change. The beauty industry also took a hit at the time because
no one was like, I guess
no one had a reason to put on makeup and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
My specific categories like shampoo and stuff like skyrocketed and hair dye because now people had to do it at home. But as a whole, there were conversations internally on like, okay, we're cutting marketing or we're cutting, companies were having these discussions like how do we cut costs because we're not selling things anymore.
Right.
I think the only thing doing well at the time was like at home hair color and hair care.
Which was your division, right? So your division was doing well, but you still just felt like...
Yeah, there were a lot of like talks internally and I started to feel like, okay, what's going to bring me into the future? Like, is there, is this like, are these changes here to stay? Like everything was up in the air. And at the time, one of my mentors from Pepsi, whom I love very much, and she's like such a go-getter, like boss lady. She went to work at Salesforce and was doing amazingly well. And so, we were checking in with each other and she's like, I think you would do really well here. We're cut from the same cloth. Like, I think you'd kill it here. And it's tech. So it's that's what was booming at the time. You had
I was
like,
going to say tech was so crazy at that time. Yeah.
you had Salesforce behind every single system going up, like all these
Right.
like pop-up clinics that were popping up. Like what were they working off of? They needed
For
a CRM,
sure.
right?
So you were kind of like, okay, L'Oreal might be taking a hit, so let me join the tech industry where it's more booming. You just felt like that was like safer, so you went for that.
Yeah, safer, but also like a new challenge, and also something that like I felt like maybe I needed to touch upon because that's our future.
Fair enough. So you made the move to Salesforce.
So I made the move to Salesforce. It was the first time ever being onboarded virtually.
I know, I remember that. It was so weird.
Yeah.
And like really hard because it was like anytime you needed help, you had to like call someone, and it was like
it was really hard. I think to date that was my steepest learning curve.
yeah, especially tech. I feel like tech's so complex.
I had never touched tech. It took me a while to even understand how the fuck things were plugged into each other in the back end.
Yeah.
It was also a completely different role because in the account management roles, I was dealing with all these buyers at Loblaws and all the retailers, but I was forming relationships with them, seeing them, talking about the products and the innovations and all these cool things happening. And it was based off of those relationships with them. Whereas now I'm coming in virtually. I'm being onboarded virtually. I'm talking about systems I don't necessarily fully understand.
Selling?
I was selling.
Yeah, so you were selling the software basically.
Yeah.
So it was completely different.
Completely. I had like an engineer, a solutions engineer to help me, but I needed to know a lot of it. And it was a lot of cold calling. So it was new acquisition as well as like.
Right, which like you had not done
I had
before.
never. No, like a little in my early days at Pepsi, but it was.
Not in that capacity.
Not in that capacity. And
when you got there, were you like, fuck, why did I leave L'Oreal?
Not in the beginning. I was pumped. I was like, I can fucking do this. I'm going to kill it.
Take this challenge on. Yeah.
And then it ebbed and flowed, and that's okay. I knew it was going to take me some time to get adjusted, but ultimately I learned a lot. It showed me I'm not meant for like cold calling and stuff. It's just, I'm not cut out for it.
Yeah. I feel like you either love it or you hate it.
And some people like the constant rejection or the constant slides right off of them. I am someone who, maybe this isn't a good thing, but often I internalize and I take things personally. And I'm like, oh my God. So it started to affect me.
Yeah.
So
being like, am I not good at my job? Can I not, like, why are people rejecting me? Like, and who knows, like, what other, like, stuff that starts to bring up for you, right?
Exactly. So that I went from being like a superstar, like student, for example, and a superstar at Pepsi and whatever, and feeling great about myself at L'Oreal to, holy fuck, I'm probably the worst person on this team right now. What the fuck did I just do? You know, you're like, what the F did I just do moment? That was mine.
That was your moment.
Yeah, it started to affect my confidence.
That's the worst feeling too, because it's like you can't go back in time, right? It's like, okay, maybe that was the wrong decision. But I think the point is like sometimes we make decisions and like they're not always the right decision. Yeah. But like it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like no one has a crystal ball. You don't know that that's the wrong decision or the right decision. You could have stayed at L'Oreal and who knows? You could have got laid off. You could have got like you have 100%, no idea.
No, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. But I also for a while in the background was like helping friends and family with marketing, which allowed me to be a little more creative. So I think I was lacking that creative outlet in my life.
Yeah. I just felt like stale kind of.
Yeah. So stale. And every time like a friend or a family member would like want to start something in business or my partner, he was like, what do you think we should do with this? And I used to get so fueled. I was like, your brand should be named this and this is what it should look like. And this is, it should have like this mood and this should be your target audience. And
well, you have that consultative like ability and I guess like in you, I don't know if it's like ability is the right word, but like you have that within you naturally because remember your life path number that we brought up and it said you were like, you should be a consultant. So you obviously have that in you.
Yeah. And I realized I love doing it. I used to get so excited and like put together like branding packages and branding kits. And, at the time I was like, well, why am I not doing this? I had the ability to be remote with Salesforce, but then also thinking to myself like, maybe I should start my own little agency. And that's when I moved to Ottawa.
And were you still at Salesforce when you moved to Ottawa?
Yeah, I was still at Salesforce when I moved to Ottawa. Yeah, I still remember like my setup here. I like moved officially into my boyfriend's place at the time.
Yeah.
And by this point I had gotten Mia as well, like somewhere in there throughout COVID, I
got
was
the
like,
dog.
Yeah, I was like, I need to nurture a little something. Like, I really want a puppy.
I feel like everyone got dogs during that time.
Yeah, she's my COVID puppy. She's my little like love of my life. I'm like a shameless.
Obsessed.
Yeah. I'm obsessed. I'm a shameless dog mom. She just turned 4. And I was crying on her birthday. I was like, no, like my little baby is growing up.
So dramatic.
So dramatic. Like, what am I going to do with an actual child? But
literally.
So me and Mia packed up and we came to Ottawa. So I was doing Salesforce for a bit here at the time, but my agency like started to pick up.
So you were doing the agency at the same time?
Yeah, simultaneously.
Okay.
So that started to pick up. And then I guess through word of mouth and just connections in Ottawa, I got a couple of clients and I was like, you know what? F this. I don't want to be in tech. I'm not cut out for this. And that's okay. I learned a lot, but I just realized it wasn't my avenue. And so I quit Salesforce and just ventured out onto my own.
You just like took the risk and said, fuck it. I'm just going to go for this and see what happens.
So I loved being like the visionary and coming up with the concepts and the actual brand and the brand voice and the brand messaging and all of that. It taught me so much. Like, I touched on industries I never thought I would ever have to get creative on. Things I had no idea about, or things that I wasn't necessarily interested in, but it was challenging me to be creative and do the research and, you know, come up with ideas that would help these small businesses.
Right. Yeah. So you were here, you had your agency going, and then like you came to Ottawa, and like how long, I guess, were you in Ottawa?
Yeah, so after I moved to Ottawa, it was about I think it was within the first year of living here in Ottawa that's when all the changes started to happen. Like, I left Salesforce, started my agency, was trying to build a life here, but I didn't really have anyone in Ottawa other than my partner and his family and his friends.
Right.
His family is amazing, and I became really close to them because otherwise I didn't really have a foundation here in Ottawa. So that's when I found myself start to ground my own roots in Ottawa.
Make your own life.
I saw the Yow Girl page. I saw like that first event that you had hosted.
Yeah.
And
I guess for context though, for listeners that like might not know that, like our business used to be called Yow Girl Club, and it was like just me doing it, and we were just doing events solely at the time, like networking events. So Katerina came out to an event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think we've said this a couple of times. Like, we kept like crossing each other and not being able to meet. And then I finally came to that event. At the time too, I had other friends being like, wait, you're just like going alone? And I was like, yeah, I'm just going alone. Like, you know,
I need to put myself like show up alone. Yeah.
And
were you scared?
A little.
Yeah.
A little, just because I had no idea what I was walking into.
You didn't know what to expect.
No, and I was like, we had exchanged some messages, and I was like, I like this girl. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
I was gonna say, did that make you feel more comfortable knowing that like it was me kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like we had talked a couple of times. You saw me on the page. You probably were like, okay, she looks like semi-normal.
Yeah,
like,
She moved to Ottawa too and didn't have any connections here. So I was like, okay, similar stories. Let me just go. What's the worst that can happen? I'll find a girl that I can go for coffee with and go to Pilates with, or I won't, right? Or it's like an evening that I just spent out by myself. So so I did just that. I just was like, fuck it. I'm like, let me go and see what happens.
Yeah.
Got dressed up, came to the event, and from that moment on, we clicked.
Yeah.
So that, we've started. Yeah. And now look at us, So I'm very grateful for the time that I did spend in Ottawa. A lot of life changes in the past couple of years and in the past few months as well. But it led me to where I am today. There have been changes. I'm back in a marketing role now, which I'm happy about because my trajectory before was like very like sales oriented until I took the leap of faith and just did marketing by myself with my agency. That then led me now to a more concrete marketing role.
Exactly. And had you have not like left your Salesforce job, like doing sales and starting your own marketing agency, who knows if you would have got a job in marketing? Because it's like, I know you went to school for marketing, but like that means shit all today, I feel, right?
Well, that's the thing. And
in
that's
the sense of like jobs.
Yeah. That's marketing is what I enjoy doing. And like that creative side is what I needed. But on paper, it was more so account management and sales and like national sales and blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't then like agencies would look at that and be like, okay, cool. You did it on your own, but you don't have any like on paper experience. Whereas I kind of disagree with that mentality that the bigger agencies have, because working with small businesses, you wear all the hats. Like I touched on all things marketing, coordination and strategy and whatnot. Whereas like oftentimes in an agency, you're fulfilling one role at a time. So, but again, on paper, it didn't seem that way. So you're right. Like maybe my path, I would have taken a whole other route had I not quit to just force myself into like that creative side and force myself into the marketing side versus staying on track with like sales and like those larger companies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You never know, right? Like what could have happened kind of thing.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a wild ride. There's been a lot of like moving and a lot of changes and, you know, good and bad and everything in between.
I know. Like we've both moved around a lot. So it's like, I know like what you're saying. And I know that feeling of like, oh my God, like I need to like settle somewhere.
Yeah, because, and it's funny because ever since I decided to leave Montreal to go to Toronto, it feels like my life has been on like a constant hamster wheel. It's like, okay, we're moving to Toronto. Oh, okay, moving to Ottawa. Oh, okay, moving back to Montreal. Yeah. But I think that comes with like constantly wanting more, like no matter what I do, whether it's like my career, whether it's my relationships, whether it's my friendships, it's like I'm all in, both feet in, and I fight hard for what I love and what I want, and sometimes to my own detriment. But it's okay because it's taught me a lot and it's brought me to where I am today. So
yeah, exactly. The lessons along the way always lead us to the next thing, right?
Yeah. And we'll get into more of those lessons and more of those life changes. But, you know, I hope I kind of did like a little mini overview today.
Yeah. It's just like good for
just like to kind of get to know me.
Exactly.
Thanks for getting to know me today.
Till next time.
Till next time, TGC. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, we'd really appreciate if you could like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at It's That Girl Club to stay in the loop with your girls and join us in becoming that girl. See you next Wednesday.